Roma, though, Gab, they thought they'd got off to an okay start, a 0-0 draw with Verona, which would have given them a point, but now they've been forfeited and it's a 3-0 loss. Can you tell us more about this situation?
Yeah, look, first of all, regular people who listen to me regularly know that I hate lawyers and I hate bureaucrats. And this is beyond stupid. Okay, Roma have a midfielder named Amadou Diawara, who turned 23, I think, over the summer. There are squad rules in Serie A, like there are in every other league, where you can register a certain number of players as sort of 23 or over, and you can have an unlimited number of players who are 22 or younger. And when you fill out your squad list for the game, you have to specify who's in what category. For whatever reason, this wasn't done at Roma. They had him down as one of the 22 and under players who don't count against the total. Wouldn't have made any difference because it's not like they could have registered him as a 23-year-old because they still had spare spaces there. So it made zero differences. But hey, it's an administrative error. They get no advantage out of it. And as a result, they forfeit. Now, Longo has resigned. He's going to Verona, funnily enough. But that was something that was going to happen earlier. Morgan De Sanctis has been, it's kind of funny. There's a very well-known blogger in Rome called Erfaina, who called him incompetent. And Morgan is all upset about it and has now sued him for libel. So I'm going to steer clear of calling anybody incompetent here. I'm just going to say it's a diabolical and stupid system, one that docks you points for this. It's obviously an administrative error. It's an administrative error in good faith. You gained zero material advantage out of it. This isn't like playing a player who was suspended and whatever else, the way Rafa Benitez did at Real Madrid a few years ago, as you know well. I don't know what to say. This is just stupid.
Yeah, it's Pantaleo Longo, this guy who's been sacked for it. He took fault for the error. He said it was my responsibility. Obviously, Roma will appeal this situation. We'll keep our eye on it and what's going on. But do you foresee any problems for the Juve that we saw last weekend against Roma this Sunday?
Well, I think it's going to be a different Juve as the season progresses, right? Andrea Pirlo was kind enough to offer us his blueprint, because it's all in his thesis of the football he wants to play. It certainly looked a lot more fun and a lot more attacking and a lot better against what I thought was a very defensive Sampdoria side. But I think as injured players return, I think it's necessarily going to look different. The one thing that should make this game very exciting is that we have Fonseca on the other side, who obviously likes to take the game to the opposition. We have, in some ways, we may well have a mirror formation. You have the whole Dzeko subtext to this. So I think it should be a spicy game. It should be interesting. And look, it's going to take time for us to see what Pirlo really wants to do. And it's going to take time for us to figure out whether it's any good.
Yeah, and I think for Roma, Gab, as you mentioned, they're going to actually attack Juventus. They faced the Sampdoria side that was playing this 4-5-1 with the striker Bonetti all alone on his own. There was no attacking threat coming from the midfield. So Juventus just did whatever the heck they wanted with Samp. It's not going to be like that with Roma. They're actually going to get a lot more space in behind. And one of the things I really liked about watching this Juventus side under Pirlo is how vertical they could be. Without that reference point up top, there was so much movement in the final third, and they were without basically 5 starters, right? Because if you look at the best Juventus 11, I still think it has Arthur, Rodrigo Bentancur, obviously Paulo Dybala, Alexandro, Matthijs de Ligt. That's nearly half the entire lineup that Pirlo had to do without.
Careful saying that there, because that would mean that there's no Aaron Ramsey in the lineup, and you might upset Nicky there.
Who do you keep? That's true. But exactly, that you need the rotation. But in the best starting 11, there's going to be a lot of spaces, I think, up for grabs. And even Weston McKennie, who had a good debut, he's going to have to fight for one of those midfield places. He's absolutely not guaranteed to start.
Yeah, no, and look, I think this is. I mean, you make some great points. I mean, I think this is a team that, as the season evolves, if you ask yourself, who can say I'm definitely starting at the weekend? There's not many players. Cristiano, obviously, Bonucci, I would imagine. but probably not too many guys beyond that because he has so many combinations. And I think this is where Pirlo's man management comes in. I mean, I wrote a piece for the website, as you know, about how, one of the schools of thought in appointing Pirlo is, well, he can be kind of like what Zidane was when he took over at Real Madrid. In other words, a guy who maybe didn't talk very much, but who, when he did talk, everybody listened, a guy who would command the respect of the players. And a guy who would have the kind of hold over the players that Sarri didn't have. And I think that's really important when you're going to have to rotate a lot. You're going to have to make some difficult decisions on a week-by-week basis. So I'll be really curious to see how he manages that. I mean, I'll tell you what, we guys were praising Ramsey's performance, and I agree with you. But if you try to play Ronaldo, another striker, whether it's Morata or Kulusevski, and Dybala in the Ramsey position, tell you what, that ain't going to work, right? You can't ask Dybala to do what Ramsey did. Bernardeschi might be able to do that. But at that point, you only have 2 slots open for your strikers, or really 1 slot, because Cristiano's going to take the other one. So how do you handle that, between Kulusevski, Morata, and Dybala? Is it set in stone that he's going to play this version? That he's going to play this formation? Could we see, genuine wingers in there at some point? I don't know, but I'm really excited to find out. And one last thought, just about Pirlo, and this is something he elaborated with a guy I know pretty well, Antonio Gagliardi, who was he's kind of like the analytics guru at the Italian FA, who joined him at Juve. He's very big on the idea that when we think of players, when we think of positions, we shouldn't think about them in terms of the physical space they occupy on the pitch, but we should think about them in terms of what their function is, right? So as he put it, there's builders, there's finishers, there's creators, and that's something that Pirlo has really, really embraced. And so when you talk about his wing backs, he doesn't want his wing backs to be defenders. He doesn't want Bonucci. He doesn't think of Bonucci, for example, building play from the back, as a defender. He thinks of Bonucci as a creator when they're in possession. And that's something, I'm really curious to see how that pans out.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.